after the indoor hype train.
Archer's fantastic. I definitely consider her a friend.
We got to hold the line against the other team, and it was very cool.
You just want to make content and just have something you can look back on. You win.
All of that time and energy, just so happy, so grateful to have been there to experience this.
Well, hello to all my fellow nerds, and welcome back to another episode of Fast Tracked, a brand new podcast dedicated to the phone flinging community and the people that make it awesome. My name is Archer. I'm your dedicated veteran, admin, world-class, queen of the hype, and host of Fast Tracked. So I'm going to have to start with an apology here. This episode was not exactly planned, so we're just going to go at this fully unedited because, hey, it is International Women's Day, and y'all deserve my full undivided attention because guess what? Women are kind of badass, so I decided to make a little episode about it. So, happy International Women's Day. Let's get right to it. So, I didn't know it was International Women's Day until a post from Too Early O'Clock this morning. Shout out to Dart Bunny over at the Women of Nerf Discord server. And from there, I decided to get a look at a couple articles, get myself in the zone with Love and Hate Nation, check out that album on Spotify. And I also noticed that there were a couple of shout outs with the Nerf scene down in Georgia, specifically ABC and Beef Squad. They gave a shout out for my girl Ashley, who will be competing at the Maryland Foam Tournament coming up next month. We're going to get right to that. And in seeing all of these posts, which the fact that the hobby is starting to make all of these posts now with more women slowly trying to get more involved, all of that is just pretty exciting. I got a look at this one article. It was actually the first article that I had seen from today that highlights just how we can support more women in sports today. And I wanted to make a bit of an episode here in talking about that. Now, what I found interesting, and I could probably relate in my own experience, is that when you're young, right, the girls will be playing with the guys and just kind of roughhousing it around, and sports was just more widely accepted, right, before this thing called puberty comes into play, and then all of a sudden girls magically don't want to do sports anymore. But apparently, according to studies based on this article, just 4% of sports media coverage is on women athletes. And I find that so fascinating because if we're talking competitive, right, this is a competitive episode, there's so much focus on media coverage and really making competitive Nerf a sport of its own. But with that, we have to ask ourselves, how often are we exposing the women in our hobby? And I'm not talking, have an entire event, obviously, as great as that would be, just showing the few women that do our hobby. I'm talking about maybe a shot here or there, really showcasing what women have to bring to the table. In fact, by the time that girls reach the age of 14, they're twice as likely to drop out of sports as guys, which is pretty wild, and we could continue on in that argument as to why that is. But what I find within our hobby is we're on this really gorgeous track, in my opinion, towards celebrating the women within our hobby and embracing those who want to give it a try, right? We're trying to change that statistic. And so what I find from this article, you guys should really check it out. It's goal5.com. And the article is support women in sports because that's the whole episode. They make several points as to how we can support female athletes, not just Nerf, through intramural sports, school sports, athletic programs, giving refreshments out at games that feature female athletes. It's a really, really great article. So for tonight, I got to look at this article and we're going to talk about 3 key bullets that I found to be pretty poignant within competitive Nerf as a whole. So there is a tab that says how to support women and girls sports. I'm all about this vibe here, so we're just going to get a look at this tab. And the first thing that caught my eye, honestly, was having a coach. Now, this is going to depend on your area and amount of sheer luck with Nerf in the surrounding vicinity. But for me, I find myself really privileged to have not one, but two coaches when it comes to getting better myself in the competitive scene, right? And this wasn't anything planned, right? There was kind of just something that happened. We all wanted to better our fitness as a whole. One of the coaches you're going to hear in the next episode, actually. And with that, it slowly became this want towards wanting to better our slides, right? Wanting to, do movements a certain way. That sounds rather strange, but we're going to go with it, guys. Improvements here. It just kind of unfolded into its own. And with that, it became this equal playing field in wanting to become better. Unfortunately, that's not always available for, and I'm not just talking women in competitive Nerf, I'm talking about women in all sports. I find that we have to work really hard towards proving ourselves on any athletic field that we do stack up and that we can be just as heavy of a competitor as any other athlete out there. So having a coach, honestly, that understands that is really, really important. And honestly, if you have a friend who is willing to have credentials from yourself in giving you critiques and bullet points and ways that you can improve, is only going to enrich your friendship anyway. So heck, why not? Get yourself a coach, get yourself a tribe. It's just really, really important if you want to help in bringing more women into competitive. The next point that I'm seeing on here, and this was actually the thing that I had seen from today, right, was our hobby's use of photography and videography. I remember when a couple of the Maryland folks came up for the APOC weekend, right? Many of the videographers that came up, they wanted to get shots of women who were partaking within the weekend, both in casuals and competitive. We actually got a couple of pictures of everybody who was competing. Now we're talking BPOC, of everybody who was competing within the casual tournament. 4 of us were women, right? And the fact that we had a safe space where we could get together and we were all on various teams and we got to have a few laughs and just kind of be like, wow, this is crazy. We're all doing this. It really means a lot as far as fostering that relationship with women and how we can feel safe and included within the competitive scene. Now, that sounds really strange because it's like, well, of course we're really inclusive because, we're Nerfers and run around with kids' toys. And that is slightly definitely true because we are running around with kids' toys. But what people need to understand, especially when it comes to athletics for women, is that we have our own set of challenges when it comes to self-confidence, exposure, being included as part of the team. And I'm not talking just as a body, I'm talking about status, right? Because we deal with enough of that in society to have a place, to have a home, a team where you don't even have to think about that and you just have a spot where you can improve in your own and contribute as part of the overall team. I just realized I deviated from the point. It all comes back to videography because in you feeling safe and included, you get to reflect on that through photographs and videos from so many YouTubers out in the ether at this point, that's just really cool to have. And I feel that to have a special focus there as opposed to getting various shots, and if there are many events that go on like that where women aren't as in the spotlight, then how are people going to know that women are a part of this, that women can and should do this? So I thought that was a really cool point. Photography and videography, that has definitely been on the rise. That is also going to be discussed within the next episode, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you are out there just taking photos and videos and you happen to see your fellow female nerfers out there and you get a couple snaps of them, it's really great getting to show that off, because we don't always get that exposure. So yeah, thank you for that, and keep the good vibes going, because trust me, speaking for me, it's appreciated. And then last but not least, there's a lot more points into this. I definitely recommend you guys check this out. The third point is sponsorship. Now, this is a little bit more geared towards businesses. I know for a lot of the bigger comp teams out there are many sponsorships out there through gear and blasters and what have you. But what I mean with sponsors is, if we're going to put it in a team sense, it's kind of like how I said before. If you want to have a business that is supporting your team, take the same concept, and if you see a player, let's just bring this down to basics. If you see a player that is unsure about doing competitive, or seeing if it's right for them, if they can handle the intimidation of it, because it can be intimidating sometimes. If for women there is an avenue of sponsorship in knowing that you are supported financially or just as a unit, as a team, then more times than not, they're going to be more likely, if they're trying to take this a bit seriously, to see how far they can go with it, right? How far can they go in an environment that, let's be real, is just predominantly guys, where we as women are the minority. Now, it's a beautiful thing. There are a lot of minorities within our hobby, and it's fantastic. But I'm just saying that by having that type of sponsorship, by having that inclusivity for women that might be on the fence, it's gonna mean a lot to them. I know, speaking for me, I can only go off of my own example, but I'll just be real with all of you. So last year was hard, right? Last year I felt, just with the span of everything that had happened, I got to a point with competitive where I felt that I was the last choice, right? I felt forgotten. I felt skirted. I felt like I was losing my passion with competitive. And a lot of that came down to people that I felt had these sponsorships, right? Had these people moved on, right? And that's okay, and that's just that is the circle of life, as they say. But unfortunately, there was not really any support at that time, and it eventually got to me asking, should I continue the hobby? Should I continue competitive? Now, fortunately, by the end of last year, things did turn around, and there was a team that did reach out, and they said, hey, we'd love to have you, and you should join us, and let's have a good time, and it'll be great. And this team they are my friends. What? And they really did a solid for me, and now with that, I feel that I'm in a space where I'm not just the only woman there. This is a special circumstance, mind you, and I am forever freaking privileged to be a part of said team. But the fact that I stumble into a lot of things in my life. It's kind of wild. The fact that I'm a part of this team that has multiple women is very exciting, and I'm actually in a place that I feel where I'm going to grow as an athlete, both physically and mentally, because with my coaches, they've kind of been beating me once a week, but we've all been growing together, so it's just been really, really exciting. But all of that was only because somebody stepped up. Someone stepped up and said, hey, we'd love to have you, and let's make it work. And I can't just be the only person who feels that way. So if you're looking at ways in recruiting more women on this beautiful and hopefully drier where you live than where I am in Wisconsin, International Women's Day, keep these points in mind. Recruitment is such a challenge for all of us within our hobby, but I know that as we continue to grow within this community, as we continue to share events and encourage each other as time goes on, we're going to bring more women into this hobby. It has always been my dream personally to have an all-female comp team. It will happen someday, but for the time being, I just feel that these are key ways in how you can contribute in bringing more women into the competitive scene, because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go up against another female on the field, it's very exciting to me, because 9 out of 10, I'm learning things from her and she's learning things from me, and we're all just learning from one another, right? So let's keep that going, right? I loved seeing all the coverage today from various teams throughout, at least today, for me, the Southeast U.S. So let's keep that going. We're a very inclusive community, and I am really looking forward to everything that's coming up for the comp season in spring 2024. Hope you guys will join me. Hope you'll join me on the ride as I fail in my English. And we're going to continue on with our next episode that's going to talk a lot about casual nerf, competitive nerf, a little bit of both, a little bit of silliness along the way. But I just wanted to give you a unedited episode of my thoughts on women athletes in competitive nerf. Stay classy, stay awesome, and I'll see y'all on the field. Take it easy for our next episode.